Welcome into the Paul Farrington Show, the Week 18 preview show. Final week of the regular season. Yeah, clap it up there. We made it. The full season. It is a grind, but here we are with 1 week left. Paul joined by Robert Ziggy Ziegler, back home in California, and Zach Bloomquist, the best executive producer in the game. He'll have a camera on him soon. We had some technical difficulties for a few weeks here, and we would rather do the show and not have to worry about freezing up and things like that. But we'll get a camera back on Zach soon because we know everyone is dying to see him. Please remember to like.
They're dying to see his biceps.
They want to see his biceps. Yeah, exactly. I mean, Union Zach, he's working cement. Zach's been lifting heavy weights most days. Concrete, sorry. It's
easy there.
All right, sorry. Same thing to me. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We finally had our first 20,000 and first 30,000 viewed video this week with the Packers-Vikings reaction. Now, I wish it was under better circumstances, but we appreciate everyone, most of whom were Packers fans, a few disgruntled Vikings fans like ourselves, who checked out the reaction to the Vikings getting their asses whooped by the Packers on New Year's Eve. But that video went over 30,000. It was really fun watching the views climb higher and higher and higher. Just thinking back to when we were doing the show earlier, and we'd have 11 views on a full episode, something like that. It's pretty amazing to see how far it could take off pretty quickly. So we thank everyone who's been watching. And Ziggy, I thought you'd find this enjoyable here. So the national championship is set in college football. We'll get to the NFL in just a second. Washington and Michigan, and we were all on Washington on this show. We're all in my basement watching the Washington game, and everyone knows, if you've been following us for a while, the stories of Mike Rotundo, our good friend Mike, who's a huge jinx. There are some unbelievable stories of Michael. Texas had a 95% chance to beat Miami in the NCAA tournament this last season. Mike says it's over. Miami doesn't miss a shot the rest of the game. Villanova's up 12 against Houston a few years ago in the Elite Eight. Mike goes, this team is national championship bound. Justin Moore immediately tears his Achilles, and Nova allows a 10-0 run. Like, crazy things happen as soon as Michael says it's over. So with what was Washington up? 13, I believe, with 4 minutes left in the game, 5 minutes left in the game. Mike stands up. Me and Jack are down there, and he goes, well, you won your bet. I won my bet. Jack won his bet. Barring a miracle, this is over. High fives everyone and leaves. And I look at Jack and go, oh my God. You know what's coming, right? Texas immediately down the field for a touchdown. And here's where we're going, okay, we should survive the jinx. Because all Washington has to do, run the clock down to 15 seconds. We're home free. And there's the miracle. When Washington's running back gets hurt, stops the clock for Texas, who had no timeouts left. And next thing you know, Texas is on the 12-yard line, first down, with 4 chances to win the game. And I don't know what forces were on our side, but somehow we walked away winners. And I just looked, I texted Mike in the chat, I said, you can't speak ever in these games. I was a little more vulgar in the chat, but it was just unbelievable watching yet another jinx almost come to fruition. I thought you'd enjoy that, though, because it was a sweat in the Farrington basement.
My family also has a well-known jinx. And right when Washington scored, he gets up and walks and says, it's like 9 p.m. because we're on Pacific time. I'm going to bed. Look forward to a big Washington victory in the morning. And my cousin who was visiting and we looked at each other and had exactly the same moment. So somehow, this is how you know this Washington team is winning the national championship. They have overcome 2 powerful jinxes.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Penix should just go first overall because of that.
Hey, I'd love to see Penix in a Viking jersey next season. He looks good in purple, doesn't he?
I mean, look, I want any new quarterback that Kirk Cousins can raise on the Vikings.
It'll be a fun offseason with Caleb, May, Daniels, Penix, all these guys. We're looking forward to that. But does it get any better than this right now? There's just a different feeling in the air in late regular season football. The games, every play means a little bit more. It gets colder outside. This has really felt like playoff football over the past few weeks. And right now, you said it earlier, Ziggy, an NFL record, 20 teams have playoff implications this week. Just run through real quick before we get into the more in-depth game breakdowns here. Vikings-Lions. Lions win, a 2 seeds possible. The Vikings win, and the playoffs are possible with help from Minnesota. Bears-Packers. Packers win, and they're in the playoffs. Eagles-Giants and Cowboys-Commanders. Obviously, NFC East division implications there. Seahawks, Cardinals. Seahawks need a win and a Packer loss to get the Seahawks into the playoffs. Bucks, Panthers, easy for Tampa Bay. You win and you're in. Falcons, Saints. If the Panthers find a way to upset the Bucks, that becomes a title game for the NFC South. New Orleans can still get in with a loss with some help. Steelers, Ravens. Steelers are in with a win and a loss from either the Jaguars or the Bills. Texans, Colts is a playoff game. Winner in, loser out. And lastly, the game that we're going to start today's show with, the Bills and the Dolphins. Dread it, Zach. Run from it. No matter what, it seems like the wild card is attached to the Miami Dolphins. At stake in this one is the number 2 seed for the winner and a wild card berth, or potentially for Buffalo. No playoffs at all. This game means everything here, because if you win, for the Dolphins at least, you're hosting, in all likelihood, the Jaguars or the Steelers, potentially even Buffalo in a rematch. And if you lose, you're on the road in Kansas City. It's, two worlds that are very different for a Dolphins Super Bowl run. Same deal goes for Buffalo, essentially. Ziggy, what are your first thoughts here when you see Buffalo going to Miami and a lot of injuries for the Dolphins?
So I get that there are a lot of injuries for the Dolphins, but both of these teams are teams that have had up and down seasons, right? Both of them have had games where they look like unbeatable juggernauts. I think of when the Dolphins went to Buffalo blew them out. We looked like that Bills team was going to win it all. I think of games like the Broncos-Dolphins game, right, where you win by 50 in the NFL. Like, both of these teams have had their moments where they've looked good, and both of them have had their moments where they've looked horrible. You think of the Dolphins' loss to the Titans. You think of the Bills playing close games against the Chargers and the Patriots, losing to teams like the Jets. So this game is going to be really important because you've got two teams with a huge variance range of outcomes. So if you get that wild card spot, you probably don't have a shot at the Super Bowl. If you're hosting the playoffs until you have to go to Baltimore, you're like, if the Bills win this game, they're going to be the second most favored team in the AFC, probably the same for the Dolphins. So anything could happen in the season. It all comes down to a division matchup between two long-suffering teams.
Two long-suffering teams, for sure. I went back and watched the first game today, and I remember Zach watching the game with me back in week 4, being so pumped up for that game. And you forget the first half was sort of similar to the Dolphins-Ravens, where it was a good game. I mean, Miami was playing with Buffalo the entire first half. It's 14-14, gets up to 21-14 Bills. And then all of a sudden, with just a few minutes left in the half, you have that absurd Stephon Diggs spinning touchdown, avoiding like 3 tackles from Miami. Immediately a Mostert fumble. Bills get a field goal. You look up, it's 31-14 at halftime. Like, game over. What are you going to do about it? Just like Baltimore went on that late second quarter run against Miami, a game that felt within reach and where Miami seemed to be on the same playing field as a Super Bowl contender, all of a sudden slips away here. And that seems to be a problem with Miami in these big road games. Now, emphasizing road, because I know when you're at home, you're a different animal, Zach. But in these road games, all of a sudden, one thing will slip up, and next thing you know, Tua starts to look a little rattled. He gets sacked. He throws an interception. It all comes crumbling down at once in all 3 phases of the game for Miami. You're hoping at home that could be a different story. When I look over at Buffalo right now, everyone's talking about the 4 wins in a row, Ziggy. But to me, they haven't been as impressive as they were 3 weeks ago when they were, or a few weeks before that when they were even losing to Philly or beating the Chiefs. The past couple of weeks have been a struggle for the Bills on offense.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about 4 wins in a row, and that's great. But I mean, playing close games against the Chargers and the Patriots, needing the defense to bail you out against Bailey Zappi and Easton Stick.
Yeah, right.
Things just haven't quite looked right for the offense. And again, like Josh Allen, the way he plays football and the way he's played these games, when it's really come down to it, when they've needed a score, he's been able to go down the field. But it's got to be worrying when you see a team that 2 weeks in a row opens as double-digit favorites and has to play really close games against the worst team in the leagues. Right. This is why I say this Bills team has so much variance. When they're on, I can absolutely see them going on to Miami and routing the Dolphins at home. But if they're off and they don't play a complete game, the Dolphins are not the Patriots. Right. You can count on this offense to score a lot of points. You need to be able to do something throughout the game.
Yeah, the past few weeks, it's been more on the defense. They haven't allowed over 22 points during that 4-game winning streak. but they've been the star of the show. It has not been Josh Allen in the offense. Stephon Diggs has basically disappeared. I've been on the Buffalo side of this the entirety of the second half of the season, as we've talked about the Bills going on this playoff run. But the more I look into this, I actually am starting to lean towards Miami. It's the one thing that's getting to me are the injuries to Mostert, Achane, Armstead, Waddle. Bradley Chubb's now out. You have Howard out. Jalen Phillips has been out for a while. That's where I'm concerned. I wanted to ask you, Zach, since you're the Dolphins fan, and you always speak about Josh Allen being a superhero, basically Superman versus the Miami Dolphins. What's your nervous level at going into, essentially a game that could determine your Super Bowl fate?
I'm always really nervous because for some reason the Bills just know how to play us. They always know how to play us, no matter what we do.
No, Josh Allen against Mike McDaniels, 3-1, 344 yards per game, 13-2 touchdown interception ratio.
Yeah, they've had our
different
number.
Animal.
They'll suck against every team, and they circle 2 games every year, and it's the Bills versus the Dolphins at home and Bills versus the Dolphins away, and they circle those every year.
You're most worried about the defense?
Whose?
You got the Dolphins defense versus the Bills offense?
Oh yeah, 100%. We're scrapping people now. We're taking scraps.
Yeah, I think your offense will be okay, actually. I went back in that first matchup, the Bills' offense was unstoppable. They did literally whatever they wanted, and that was with all those guys healthy. I don't know why. I don't expect Tua to make the big mistake in this game. Maybe that's wrong, because he always does in these massive matchups, it seems.
Our offensive line has been crumbling.
So is it dumb to be leaning Miami right now?
Probably. I mean,
from the
I don't think so. I get that this Dolphins team has looked bad, but they've looked so different at home. It's really hard for me to say that this is going to be the week when the Dolphins at home completely fall apart.
And Buffalo is so much the Buffalo home field advantage, the Baltimore home field advantage, the places where you've got blown out, those are really good home field teams as well. It's not like you went into LA and got blown out by the Rams with a pro Dolphins crowd. Like these are tough environments to go into. Philadelphia too. Your road games this year have been difficult. I'm starting to like Miami. I don't think they'll implode in this one. I'd be really surprised if you got blown out. I can see a Buffalo win, but this will not be a repeat of Baltimore last week.
If Tua gets sacked once, we implode.
It doesn't seem like he something goes off in his head after he makes that first mistake, and all of a sudden he just loses it.
After he makes I don't even know if it's the first mistake. The minute he gets sacked, it's over. Game's over. He just loses it. I don't know what happens, but so far, we did it. Either you brought the stat, I think earlier this season. Like when he gets sacked.
Oh, like 3 times. When he sacked 3 times, I think. Yes.
We just implode. Like it's complete implosion.
I'm gonna pick Miami in this one. I'm not comfortably. This is just going with a gut thing. Ziggy, are you sticking with the Bills?
The Dolphins are 7-1 at home. They've looked so good at home. All of their bad luck was burned when Tyreek Hill's house burned down. I firmly believe that this Dolphins team is going to get it together and win the division.
Even though I thought you've been on the Bills the entirety. Did something switch?
No. What have I been in on? I have been in on the Bills and Dolphins are going to play for the division in Week 18. I have been beating that drum for 2 months. I didn't say what the outcome was going to be.
Okay,
I said that was going to be the game. If this were in Buffalo, Bills by a million.
Easy.
I really think this Dolphins team is good. And if they implode and don't look prepared, then I'm going to be very worried about the future of this team. But they've looked good too many times for me to not pick them here.
This has to be the time. It has to be the time, Zach. This is the year.
Hopefully.
Okay, let's go on to the Bears and the Packers. The Packers, the stakes. They win, and they're in the playoffs. Somehow Green Bay is hosting, essentially, a win-and-in game. And it's crazy. But they can even lose. They then need the Vikings, Saints, and the Seahawks to all lose as well for the Packers to get into the playoffs. But here we are. Same deal as last year. We all remember the Sunday Night Football game. Detroit comes in with nothing to play for, and Dan Campbell's group looked like they wanted it more than Aaron Rodgers, Matt LaFleur, and the Packers. in the 2016 Detroit win, which ultimately wound up being Rodgers' last game as a Packer. It was a shocking display from Green Bay in a game that meant everything to them and nothing to Detroit. And the Packers remember that. Jordan Love's brought it up. Aaron Jones has brought it up. Matt LaFleur's talked about it. They all know that they can't let this one slip away too. You're only given so many opportunities at home to go to the playoffs, and against the Bears, who they own. Would you be comfortable as a Packers fan going into this? Because the Bears are playing well.
This team just has such a different feeling from the Packers team of last year.
Oh,
right. Last year, if I had to pick a single word to describe the Packers, it'd be malaise. Right. I feel like everyone was just kind of done. They were in this weird transitory period. Rodgers was clearly out. It didn't seem like anyone really wanted to be there. This year, it's an entirely different situation.
Yeah.
People are energized. The team's young. All sorts of players who you wouldn't have expected to contribute have played big. I can't say for sure whether the Packers are going to win this game. We'll talk a little bit more about what they need to do to win it, but they will come out motivated and ready to play. And let's not forget, Matt LaFleur is 9-0 against the Bears.
Yeah, they own.
I don't think
they own them.
Yeah. You can't tell me that they're going to come in and get rolled by the Chicago Bears in a must-win playoff game.
No, you can't expect that. And I agree with you. Last year, they did kind of feel like they were sleepwalking their way to a playoff berth. Everyone sort of just expected them to get there because they had Aaron Rodgers on the team. While this year, the Packers are chasing this. You could tell that this is a team that wants to get into the playoffs and thinks that they could even make noise when they get there. It's a completely different feeling to the team. And if you could replicate any game of the season for Green Bay, one of the first ones that would pop into Packers fans' heads would be the Week 1 performance in Soldier Field, where they won 38-20. I mean, they absolutely dominated Chicago in that game. Jordan Love, I remember recording the first time, and I was going, holy crap. I can't believe that we might be dealing with this for a third time in a row. He was awesome. 245 yards, 3 touchdowns. The defense was everywhere. They had 4 sacks, a pick 6, fumbles. That's the team you want to show up if you're a Packer fan in this Week 18 matchup. But what I'm most excited to watch is Jordan Love's arguably the hottest quarterback in the league right now. And the Bears defense has really come on. They might be the hottest defense in the league right now, despite not having anything to play for. Since Week 11, the Bears are number 1 in opponent pass rating at 61.5. Haven't allowed more than 20 points in the last 5 games. This is a Chicago team that is believing in Justin Fields and has come together against all odds from where they were just, a couple months back. I can't wait for that matchup of the hottest quarterback, hottest defense. Are you leaning one way or another in what you're expecting to happen there?
I think that the Bears have played pretty well and the defense is good, but I do not trust this Bears offense at all. Mm-hmm. While they're 6-1 in games and Fields doesn't throw an interception, he throws interceptions. While they generally are a pretty good job and they can protect the quarterback, Fields takes a lot of sacks. And the fact is, if you've got a good defense versus a good offense, I don't think that this Bears defense is going to be able to contain Jordan Love forever. We've seen this Packers offense have enough explosions. We've seen them get so much out of so little. It's difficult for me to see the Packers not winning this game and keeping the tradition going. I just feel like everything is working for Green Bay right now. And how many times have we said this, Paul? The Packers are a blue sky franchise. When they need things to go right for them, things go right for them. So if they lose this game, expect every other team they need to lose. But I don't think they're going to have any trouble winning this one.
Yeah, the Bears over that 5-game stretch, I said, they forced 13 interceptions, 14 total takeaways. Jordan Love has been phenomenal the past 7 weeks, not turning the ball over, only 1 interception. So that's another category where you're hoping if Jordan Love can just be safe, which he has been, you're in good shape to put up some points. And that Bears offense, while they've been better, it's just, do you trust the Packer defense in this? I know they just destroyed the Vikings, but Justin Fields, as up and down as he can be, I'd much rather have him than Nick Mullins or Jaron Hall in a game. This Bears offense is probably more threatening than what the Vikings put forth the other night.
I think this is how it's going to be. Jordan Love is going to need to play lights out. But the question isn't going to be which team forces more mistakes. The question is going to be which team makes the first mistake. Mm-hmm. And if you have to ask me, is it going to be Justin Fields making the first mistake? or Jordan Love making the first mistake. I mean, you saw this in that Dolphins-Ravens game last week, right? Like once you make that one mistake, things can get out of control very, very quickly if you've got a good offense and just a functional defense. I think Justin Fields makes the first mistake and the Packers ride the momentum to a win.
And did you see
maybe I've just been abused, right? Like maybe this is just like trauma speaking to me.
Dude, yeah. I mean, it's insane to me that the Packers have this game to begin with, but let alone, having it at home against the Bears, who they just consistently beat the crap out of. I mean, worse than the Vikings, worse than the Lions. Did you see the stats that came out about how Jordan Love this year, 3,843 passing yards and 30 pass touchdowns? It would be the record holder for the 104-year history of the Chicago Bears.
It's almost like Ziggy said that last show, and you don't listen to Ziggy. That's crazy.
Well, what do you mean?
That's crazy. Ziggy, you see this?
I said it last show.
Wow.
This is already on the air. Unbelievable. Oh, did you see it? Yeah. You know who you saw it from, Paul? You saw it from me? I sent it to you.
I'm sorry. I'm going through a lot of videos. I'm watching a lot of film today.
Paul, are you on Hinge during the show?
No, I'm not. I'm paying attention. I'm sorry. That's on me. I guess Ziggy dropped that stat earlier. It's still crazy that when you think about the Bears' lack of success at quarterback for 104 years, you've had a couple guys here or there show up for a season or two, but no star. And here we are on year 30 of Packer excellence at the position. No, I like Green Bay in this one too. I don't think, and most Packer fans have also said this, I don't think it'll be a cakewalk. I do expect Fields, someone to fumble, throw an interception at some point, and that's, like you said, that's where the game will turn. But the Bears will want this. And they like Fields is playing for his job right now, essentially in Chicago. And last week he was great against Atlanta. It's one of the best games he's had in a Chicago uniform. He's 0-5 against the Packers. At some point, you got to get one against your rival if you want to stay in Chicago. This is an opportunity for Justin Fields. It's an opportunity for the Bears to end a pretty crappy season by winning, what would be 5 out of 6, I believe. And you go in with the number 1 pick, maybe 12 if they win this game. There's a lot to be encouraged by if you win this game as a Bears player, Bears fan. We'll see how the Packers handle it. This is a test, and it would be great for Green Bay. Not rooting for the Packers, but it'd be great for Green Bay to get this win and have some momentum going in. They could even be a 6 seed in the playoffs. And then you go to Detroit, who you just waxed on Thanksgiving. There's a lot on the line for both teams, even though one has a playoff berth and one doesn't. So it'll be a lot of fun to watch this one. One more game we'll talk about before we move on to other conversations. The Texans and the Colts, another playoff game. By all means.
Who would have seen that coming?
Oh, my gosh. Unbelievable. Week 2, when these two teams played, you said, hey, that Week 18 matchup in Indy, that'll be for the playoffs. Winning in, losers out. That Week 2 game, the Colts won 31-20. Hard to have too many takeaways because both these teams have grown in completely different ways. Anthony Richardson started that game, got off to a hot start, and then got hurt. I remember my fantasy team, he had like 18 points in the first 5 minutes of the game. I thought I was going to blow out whoever I was playing. Then he leaves with an injury. And the Texans, we've just seen them have one of the more unprecedented runs in recent memory in the NFL. CJ Stroud was great in that game. He had like 300 yards or something, 2 touchdowns. But Gardner Minshew, I feel like this Colts team has gone under the radar the entire season, and it would feel almost fitting for them to go up against the young, upcoming NFL darling Texans and find a way to beat them at home and go to the playoffs, continue to fly under the radar. But I have trouble believing fully in Indianapolis with their up and down performances over the past 4 weeks. When you look at the Colts, Ziggy, I know we've been very pro-Texans on this show, but when you look at the Colts, are you concerned about Minshew in a big game? Do you trust him?
I think you have to be concerned about Minshew in a big game. He gets a lot of love from fans, and I get why. But the fact is he is a prototypical backup quarterback. He is capable of playing very well, and there are plenty of games where he does. But he is capable of having games where you look at him and squint and say, is that guy really playing in the NFL?
Yeah, he does.
And you compare him to someone like CJ Stroud, who you squint and think, is that guy playing in the NFL because he looks like an alien who doesn't belong on the field. It's just a completely different situation. This Texans defense has been surprisingly good. They've been able to get to the quarterback when they really need to. The Colts run game hasn't been quite what people expected, despite having a bit of a bounce back when Taylor came. If Minshew wants to win this game, he's going to have to put it on himself and get a lot done on the offense. And I'm just not convinced we're going to see that this week.
And the Texans' run defense this year is fourth in the NFL at 88.5 yards per game allowed. Derrick Henry really struggled last week. And Henry and the Titans have their own issues. But the Texans have had a good run defense. People keep talking about Jonathan Taylor, how he owns Houston. He didn't play in that week 2 game. He hasn't seen this year's Texans. So it's fun to look back and say, yeah, the Colts are 4-0-1 when Jonathan Taylor plays against Houston, and he's gone for 158 total yards, 2 touchdowns, 143 and 2 touchdowns, 175 and a touchdown. The numbers are crazy, but that's a different Texans team. You can't compare last year's Texans to this year's Texans. So if this game's going to come down to, all right, let's see who can win in the passing attacks, because both these secondaries are just okay, I'm betting on CJ Stroud every single time. And that's not even close to me. You go back and watch him last week returning from the concussion. Some of the throws that this guy makes every single week are just unbelievable. I mean, the guy makes Nico Collins and Noah Brown, Dalton Schultz look like number 1 weapons. Go through the list of the top 10 offenses in the league. You have Miami, San Francisco, Detroit, all of them loaded weapons. Baltimore, Lamar, very good weapons. Buffalo, Josh Allen, Diggs. Dallas, CD, the Rams, Cooper Kupp, the Eagles loaded, Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes, and at 10 is Houston. So all those teams either have loaded weapons or an elite quarterback, and the Texans have CJ Stroud. That's why they're there. So I'm pushing all my eggs on the Texans train, even though the Colts have somehow found a way to be in this position and very well could go to the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised at all. But my confidence is with Stroud, with the superstar. And it sounds like you are with me.
I mean, look, Paul, it's the Texans on the road in the division. The Texans have won 7 straight on the road in the division.
Sheesh.
They're going to make it 8. And I mean, I will say there's some good news for the Colts, right? Importantly, Quentin Nelson practiced in full today. There was some worry he wouldn't be able to play, especially with Ryan Kelly in a boot looking like he'll be out. That Colts offensive line, if the Colts do want to win this, that's going to be a key. When this team's been good, it's because the offensive line has been good. It's given Minshew time. It's helped the run game. You need difference makers like Quentin Nelson to play if you're the Colts. So the fact that he's coming back gives them some life. As weird as it is to talk about a guard in that way. No, you and I know from our Notre Dame days.
Oh, dude.
He's one of those difference makers.
Dude, I remember when we were freshmen looking up the Jumbotron, they had a graphic of Quentin Nelson. Like, I think he set some sort of ND record, and he was just flexing, and my jaw hit the floor. I've never seen a human being that big. We used to have guys who watched video on Quentin Nelson. Our friend Max Hammersmith, who used to do the show with us back at school, and he said when they watched film on Quentin Nelson, everyone in the room just shut up and enjoyed what they were watching, because this guy he's different. He is a different animal. There are NFL players, and then you said there are aliens. He's an alien. And that Houston defense, we saw what they did to Tennessee last week. They were all over Ryan Tannehill and Will Levis when he was in. Yeah, the Colts offensive line is a huge role in this one. Again, we talked about how good the Texans run defense has been. The Colts offensive line plays a pivotal role in this. Zach, did you have Michael Pittman on your fantasy team this year?
In your uncle's league, yeah.
In one league?
Yeah.
He's quietly, I saw some stuff today about how good of a season he's having.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. What would you? Did you start him most of the time? I'm trying to remember.
Did he get?
He should have. He had like 1,100 yards.
He had a great year.
Yeah,
he had a great year.
I might have been starting him. I know it was Jacobs towards the end of the year. I didn't start him as much because I remember. Sutton started going off. So I could play Sutton over it.
It's just funny though, because Michael Pittman was kind of like the entire Colts team to me a little bit, where I knew he was playing well, but I didn't realize how good of a season he was having. And that's kind of the whole Colts team. You look back, you go, wow, like, yeah, they're 9-7 playing for double-digit wins in a year where Gardner Minshew started almost the entire season. Yeah. So
and they really feed off this, right? Don't the Colts absolutely love that they're 9-7 playing for a playoff spot, and no one is giving them any respect. Everyone, no one is. And we're guilty of this too. Everyone's fawning over CJ Stroud and the Texans offense and talking about how great that's going to be. And maybe it is. But when it comes to playing a must-win game at home for the playoffs, you can't count the Colts out, even though I really want to.
No way. The past 4 weeks, though, they got blown out by the Bengals, blown out by the Falcons, and then blew out the Steelers and just beat the Raiders last week. So, you're not sure who you're going to get, and that's why I look at quarterback as the first thing most people look at. Stroud, yeah, we'll take that.
So, question.
Yeah.
Do you think the Colts are in the same position with Anthony Richardson?
If Richardson had been healthy?
Had been healthy this whole time. Do you think we're still in the same conversation?
Yeah, I think Richardson would have gotten very good by the end of this year.
It's just so hard to say how he would have developed. This is one thing about this season that I think is a little unfortunate for the Colts, is that the Texans had the season the Colts wanted to have, where your quarterback comes in, starts out a little rough, and then grows very quickly into an elite playmaker. The Colts don't know what Richardson would have been, but based on what we saw in those first few games, I know the offense would have looked totally different, but the man he looked like Cam Newton out there for a minute.
Yeah, and
it's hard for me not to say that they would have done well with him as opposed to Gardner Minshew, who's been up and down.
I would have expected Richardson to play closer to Stroud than Bryce Young. Now, he probably wouldn't. Stroud's been one of the best rookies of recent memory. I don't know if we would have got that. It's hard to predict that. But I would be more confident in Anthony Richardson playing like an above-average quarterback than making the mistakes that we've seen in Carolina this year from Bryce. But it's a fun question to think about. Next year is going to be like Indianapolis is a team to circle next year. That division is going to be fun to watch for a long time with the young quarterbacks there. Okay, let's move on. A couple more things on the show today here. The Browns. We talked about them finally for the first time last show. And we'd wanted to talk about them earlier, but they had that Thursday night game with the Jets, and it just made for weird timing. I saw this question popping up a few times on different shows and social media lately. But are the Cleveland Browns the biggest threat to the Ravens in the AFC? And at first, you might sit back and go, "Well, of course not. There's some star-stud quarterbacks in the AFC." But then you really start to look into it and look at these matchups. Baltimore's defense phenomenal. Cleveland's defense, phenomenal. Joe Flacco, what he's done has been crazy in Cleveland over the past 5 weeks when we thought, his NFL career had been written off. So I went back and watched both the games, the Browns games and the Ravens games. And it's hard to pull out too much from them because you had DTR playing in the first one and you had Deshaun Watson playing in the second one. But one thing you could notice in each game was the Browns have the ability to make Lamar Jackson uncomfortable like few teams have this year. They can force him into mistakes. They had the big comeback in the second game. And a lot of times these games got away from them early with the Kyle Hamilton interception. They muffed the punt. DTR had a bunch of picks. So I think that these teams are a little bit closer than many people would expect. When you look at the Cleveland versus Baltimore matchup, Ziggy, do you think that Baltimore is by far and away the better team like a lot of people seem to do?
I think Baltimore is far and away the better team, but that's not the question you asked. The question you asked was, are the Browns the biggest threat? And I'll say this, the resilience that Browns have shown this year is incredible. No team has started 5 or more quarterbacks since 1999. And the Browns not only did that, they did that and made the playoffs. The fact is, this team has nothing to lose and they know it. You can see it with how they play out there. Right? A lot of teams that the Ravens are going to face in this postseason, I think, are going to go to Baltimore and be intimidated.
Yep.
Playing there is tough. The Ravens have almost certainly have the MVP. They've got a fearsome defense. There's so much to be afraid of. But this Browns team just isn't going to be. They've got the offensive line that can handle the Ravens pass rush. They've got a quarterback who knows what it's like to win in Baltimore. That sounds really silly, but just having a lot of good memories on that field, I think, actually makes a difference. You compare it to some other quarterbacks. Like if the Dolphins have to go to Miami, they're going to be thinking something very different. This team's amped up. They're ready to play. They've got a surprising amount of talent. They weirdly get to rest their starters for a week. Well, are they the biggest threat? I don't think so. I think the biggest threat is probably the Buffalo Bills. But I think they've got to be the second or third scariest team. I wouldn't want to face them if I were Baltimore. I'm hoping someone else knocks them out. Yeah,
I imagine this situation as if I'm a Ravens fan. What do I want to see? Buffalo, man, like Cleveland versus Buffalo. I actually think you'd rather not see Cleveland basically everywhere except the quarterback position. And even though Flacco's been awesome, I would expect to be able to make more mistakes from Joe Flacco than Josh Allen. You never know if Allen gets hot. That Bills team is a juggernaut in their own right. So I probably put Buffalo ahead of them as a team I would fear. Then Kansas City's tough. I don't know if I would ever want to face Patrick Mahomes.
I'm not scared of Kansas City.
I know people aren't. I know they're not, but I would put Kansas City ahead of Cleveland as well, because if given the opportunity, I would rather avoid Patrick Mahomes. Then I slot Cleveland in their 3, and that's very close between all 3 of those teams. But Joe Flacco, that's the difference there. Is do I trust Joe Flacco? Mostly. I'd just rather face Flacco than Allen or Mahomes. But when you look at what Flacco's done here, in the 11 games before Flacco, the Browns scored 30 points or more 2 times, or over 30 points 2 times. And in his 5 games in which they're 4-1, they've done that 3 times. So you're looking at an offense which has found new life. He has 13 passing touchdowns over those 5 weeks. That's the most in the NFL. It's more than the Jets have had all season. It's more than the Browns had in the previous games without Flacco combined. He's rejuvenated this offense despite missing Nick Chubb, despite missing Amari Cooper for some weeks. At the same time, though, he has the most interceptions in the league at 8 over those 5 games. So you get a lot of explosion from Joe Flacco, but you also get a lot of risk with that reward. And that's where I think Baltimore would probably win that game. But, I don't want to see the Cleveland defense. So I would put Chiefs, Bills, then, or Bills, Chiefs, then the Browns.
Here's the one thing, at least, that the Browns do have going
Zach's
for them.
Mad. Zach wants the Dolphins.
He's mad because we didn't put the you discounting the Dolphins like that below the Chiefs is ridiculous. But here's the thing: the Browns have a defense such that if Joe Flacco makes a couple of mistakes, they can recover. And you'd much rather have a quarterback like Flacco who's going to go for the 50-50 ball. And when it works, he's going to get you a touchdown. And when it doesn't work, he's going to get you an interception. Than some of the other quarterbacks they've trotted out where they're not making a ton of mistakes, but their stat line looks something like 6 for 13, 90 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. You just need a quarterback that's willing to take the risk. And Flacco's filled that role for them well. So as long as they've got that, I think they've got a chance.
And if you were to compare the 2 games that they previously played this year, with Joe Flacco, I'd compare them more to that Deshaun Watson game than DTR. Flacco, while he's made some mistakes, has been really good. And DTR, you knew they didn't really have a chance in that game. The Browns offense, go back and watch it. They can't move the ball the entire game. He was helpless. And you feel bad. It's a rookie in an early season game against one of the best defenses in football. Deshaun Watson, they were moving the ball up and down the field. They just, they were struggling to get in the end zone at times. So Joe Flacco, with the way he's played at quarterback, I think he can move the ball on Baltimore. I don't think they'll get shut out or anything. And with what the Ravens have done to people at home this year, contenders, or really just contenders in general, blew out the Jaguars, blew out the Dolphins, blew out the Niners, blew out the Lions. The Browns are one of the few teams who's a contender who's stuck with them this season in a game. And that's why I think that if they played, Baltimore fans would be confident. But in the back of their minds, they'd be going, we're a couple mistakes away from potentially being shut down here. So
this is
I would just rather not face Allen and Mahomes. That's
you never want to play a divisional rival in the playoffs.
Not
like
AFC
that.
North.
The AFC North divisional rivals. After the game, the Seahawks, was it the Seahawks? No, it was the 49ers and the Cardinals. Like their social media teams. The Cardinals are like, "We love you, San Francisco. We got you the 1 seed," and the 49ers like send them a little fist bump back. In the AFC North, they would consider losing a game just to deny their rival.
Yeah, that doesn't happen in the AFC North.
And I know that the Ravens blew out the Browns at home in that really weird game, but these AFC North games, every single time the teams find a way to make it close and something ridiculous happens that decides the game, you do not want that energy in the playoffs.
That would be a dogfight. Myles Garrett would be a freak in that game. Coming off the edge.
I hope we get it so bad.
Oh, that'd be so fun. The Flacco, if Jack were here, he'd be talking about the Flacco revenge tour. That would be a lot of fun. And if Cleveland found a way to win that and went to the AFC it's going to be a great AFC playoffs. For as weird as this season has been and up and down for so many teams have had up and down seasons, at the end of the day, the talent level that's in that playoff field is off the charts still. I can't wait to watch it. In the Packers-Vikings reaction show, Ziggy, I said that Jordan Love, we were talking about how good he's been this second half of the season, and I said, he's definitely not top 10 quarterback, but he's certainly established himself as a top 16, top half of the league quarterback. And I went home, we put up that show. It did really well. I'm reading the comments, and someone commented, no, he's definitely been top 10. And I sat back and started to think. I was like, oh, all right, maybe he has been. and I'm driving my car earlier today, and for the first time ever with Jordan Love so far, I started thinking about some of the numbers that he's been putting up lately and the way he's looked in some really big games. And I promise you, it was the first time that all of a sudden I felt a wave come over me, and I went like, oh no, like this could happen again. And it's the first time I've truly ever believed that it could happen. We've talked a lot about the Packers on this show. And a lot of Packers fans have been joking around about me and you being closet Packer fans. And we've said how maybe he could take the level to a superstar quarterback if given the right weapons and stuff. But this was the first time where I went, wait a second, this could actually happen. And when you look at Jordan Love, the way he's played the second half of the season, I saw a graphic today. Passing touchdowns, second half of where he ranks in the league. Passing touchdowns, 18, first in the NFL. Total touchdowns, 20, tied first in the NFL. Passing yards, 2,238, tied first in the NFL. Completions, 183, third in the NFL. He has been on an absolute tear. And you heard me just now reading over these numbers. I went, oh my God, I hate this. This is just horrible. Because now we're not just gassing up Packer fans. I'm scared that actually this dude is going to be a legit star next season. When you look at Jordan Love right now, 16 touchdowns, 1 interception, the last seven games. NFC Offensive Player of the Week, destroying our Vikings. Do you think, while I'm not statistically he's been top 10, if you were going into a win or go home game tomorrow, you're building a team, would Jordan Love crack your top 10 current playing quarterbacks?
I think he would. And before we get into who exactly I'm putting him over, I think I got to say something about why. Jordan Love, I'm assuming we're just talking sort of how he's been the second half of the season. Because the first half of the season, there's a lot of figuring stuff out. But you look at what Jordan Love has done, and you look at who he's done it with, and it's unbelievable because it's not a Brock Purdy situation where he's got a bunch of all-pros, right? The leading receiver on this team is Jaden Reed. Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks, Christian Watson, Luke Musgrave. I mean, those aren't terrible players, right? And I know Packers fans are excited. Yeah, but Bo Melton's coming off a practice squad and going for a century and a touchdown. Like Jordan Love, obviously these players have contributed something. I don't want to take too much away from them. But Jordan Love has elevated the entire offense around him. These players on their own would not be producing very much. And you look at how he's distributed too. Nobody's got over 681 yards. That's the leading receiver. You look at the rushing game, it's been inconsistent. You look at the offensive line, the star left tackle has been out, and they've been cycling through guys left and right. Like Jordan Love has just done so much with minimal support around him. It's difficult for me not to elevate him even more when the numbers are already, as you said, very, very good. So then you start thinking about, what quarterbacks am I going to take over Jordan Love in a must-win situation?
Yeah.
And I don't know. Are you good to let's run through a few quarterbacks and just see. I wonder if we're going to.
Yeah, I want to hear your list here because at first thought, when bringing up the question, I say there's no way he'd be in my top 10 guys to win a game, despite the numbers, because the numbers are top 10 easily. But the first thought is probably wouldn't happen. So I'm curious to see where you come down on the quarterbacks you take over.
So you got a must-win game. We're not talking about a single drive here over the course of a game. Obviously, Lamar.
Yep, I have him.
Obviously, Prescott.
Yep.
Obviously, Stafford.
Stafford, yes.
Obviously, Mahomes.
Mahomes.
And obviously, Josh Allen.
Josh Allen.
I think those are the absolute no-brainers.
Okay.
Then I'm probably going to include Brock Purdy. I've liked how he's looked. And I'm probably going to include Tua too. Those guys, I get their worries. Are they system quarterbacks? How much is going on around them? But they've both looked very, very good.
I have them. I do think that those are closer. You can actually make an argument for Love on those ones, but I still take Tua and Purdy.
Yeah, those guys I think it's not obvious.
All right, so right now
I'll be honest,
7 quarterbacks.
There is nobody else in the league in a must-win game I am taking over Jordan Love.
He comes in at number 8 for you on that list.
Now, if you guys barely missed the cut, and some folks are going to be angry, CJ Stroud fans are going to be angry. Jared Goff fans are going to be angry. Jalen Hurts and Trevor Lawrence fans are going to be angry. But the fact is, when you look at the body of work this season, and Jordan Love's a tricky evaluation because you don't have tons of evidence you can go back to, despite how long he's been in the league. But when you look at the body of evidence this season, I think Jordan Love has outplayed just about all those players. And the way he's outplayed them has left me very confident he's going to be good for the Packers for a long time.
Okay. I don't have a big problem with that. I have the 7 guys that we listed: Mahomes, Allen, Tua, Lamar, Dak, Purdy, Stafford. I would take CJ Stroud. That would be 8. At 9, I'm taking, and this isn't in any order, but the 9th guy, I would take Jalen Hurts. Trevor Lawrence maybe gets a little more hype than actual production on the field at times, but I would still take Trevor Lawrence. He would be my 10th guy, so he wouldn't make my top 10 there. There are 2 guys now who I think you can kind of weigh in. There's really no one else I'd consider of active quarterbacks. I would take Kyler Murray in one game. I do think that with the way he's looked over the past few weeks, he's back to that superstar level. It's just not a very talented Cardinals team. So I take Kyler as the 11th guy. And then the person I'd really debate, and I could flip either way, is Jared Goff, who you mentioned. In a must-win game, I'm probably taking Goff right now. And I know a lot of Packers fans are going to be mad about some of these selections here, but Goff's been to a Super Bowl before. Goff has helped this Lions rejuvenation here. I trust him a little bit more for one game than Love at this current state in time, even though Love's numbers and he just beat the crap out of him on Thanksgiving. But I got those 12 guys who I would take, and then I'd have Love at 13, which is actually still higher than I expected him to be.
It's better than I thought. Yeah, it's better than I thought he'd be going into the season. I've just been so impressed with the last 7-game stretch. I mean, as you said, the numbers. He's the only quarterback in the league to throw for over 1,800 yards, 16 or more touchdowns, 1 or fewer interceptions, completion percentage of 68% or higher. You know who the last quarterback to put those numbers up over a 7-game stretch was?
Who?
Aaron Rodgers, 2021.
Yeah, of course.
His MVP season.
Of course, so, it had to be.
Yeah, Packers fans are spoiled, right? But I don't know. Jordan Love has just looked good with very little. And it's weird. You said this at the beginning, but he hasn't been getting any media attention for this.
Nothing.
So much fawning over him over the beginning of the season. You'd think there'd be some people saying closet MVP or offensive player of the year, or at least just this guy beating the drum for a quarterback. I mean, then you see guys in the media, I'm not going to name any names here, saying that Justin Fields is a higher tier quarterback than Jordan Love. You know what Justin Fields has done over the past 7 games, Paul? 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 1,200 yards. Jordan Love has taken a sack on 4% of his plays. Fields taken it on 7. Fields has been a net negative on EPA in passing. Jordan Love has been one of the highest in the entire league, behind only Lamar and Josh Allen. Like, Jordan Love has played and captained one of the better offenses in the NFL with very little around him. I just don't understand why it seems like people refuse to recognize him as the very good quarterback he's played as.
Oh, I mean, of all 12 of the quarterbacks that I listed, the Packer weapons would probably only be above Arizona and
Kansas City,
and then maybe the Texans. You might take Nico Collins and Noah Brown over what the Packers have. Probably not, but it's been crazy. Just a couple other fun stats here, because we've been doing these deep dives into Packers research, trying to get ready for these shows here. They're of quarterbacks to have 3+ passing touchdowns and 0 interceptions over their first 17 career starts. There's a 4-way tie for a player who has done it 5 times. Those quarterbacks: Patrick Mahomes, Dan Marino, Brock Purdy, and Jordan Love.
You kidding me?
And then Love's 3 highest passer ratings this season: at Detroit, 125.5; at Minnesota, 125.3. At Chicago, 123.2.
So nothing's changing. The
King of
Packers
the
just
NFC
still
North.
own the division. Because you didn't even, yeah. Oh. I mean, look, I respect the hustle, right? And I've got no ill will towards Packers fans over this, but come on.
No,
we were
it's a joke.
joking
It's
at
a
the beginning of the season.
Wouldn't
it be funny if the Packers get another Hall of Fame quarterback? And lots can happen. And
I got a text today. I got a text today from our family friends who I mentioned in our full episode, and it said, "Hey, hope you're ready for another 15 years." I was like, "Wow, I might actually have to be."
Oh, he is on a Hall of Fame trajectory. That's very early. I'm not saying anything's going to happen. But Paul, look at the names you just listed. Set aside Brock Purdy, like Dan Marino, Patrick Mahomes. We're already talking about him being one of the better quarterbacks in the league his first year as a starter, and he's proved it.
The numbers,
again, as I said, there's a lot that can change.
You just mentioned the second half. Well, we talked about the second half of the year numbers, and you're right. If he had a better start to the season, or I'd say second quarter of the season, then you could be looking at an MVP candidate, which is insane given what that team has to work with at the moment. Even though the very good weapons, just no alpha player, in my opinion, on the offense from the weapon standpoint. It's crazy, crazy season for Jordan Love. But overall, when you look at this, to sum this up here, I would say the numbers, absolutely top 10 for him. Yeah, borderline best player or borderline MVP of the second half of the season, which no one has talked about. And then if you're going to pick a quarterback to win a game, he's just on the fringe of top 10 for me, but you have him at 8. So that's a huge, huge win for Packers fans.
Well, and I'll say this, fairly or not, Jordan Love is going to be judged on the basis of what he does against the Bears in a must-win, enter the playoffs kind of game. I honestly think, again, you never know what'll happen, but I honestly think he's going to rise to the challenge. And if he does, Paul, say Jordan Love comes in, like the Bears go into Lambeau and Jordan Love absolutely rocks the Bears. And what is in fact a must-win game. Is that going to change your opinion on him at all?
As in terms of putting him in the top 10?
Yeah.
I can see him. Look, probably one game wouldn't, but I can see him jumping over Kyler and Goff in that regard. I don't think any of the other guys, maybe Purdy. Purdy's weird to me. I still don't really know how to judge.
You can't evaluate him. He's just played so well.
Yeah, he's been flawless in 12 of the games and then horrendous in 4 of them. So I'd still put Purdy over Love. But yeah, no, there's definitely room for Jordan Love to crack that top 10. I'm excited to see where we rank him heading into next season when you have some more superstars coming back. I still tend to say that 13 to 16 range is where he's going to fall into. But we're getting the cue to wrap it up here. We just can't stop talking about the Packers, can we?
It's the only way I know how to deal with the pain, Paul.
Yeah, maybe this is like therapy for us. Because I was on that car ride, I did actually look like I went, damn it. This could be happening. So we'll see what happens. Big game this weekend, though, for Packers fans. Big game. Who would have thought it would come down to this? But here we are. So, all right, let's finish up the show here with some game picks. We'll wrap these up. Zach, I wish we had a camera for you here, but we don't. So we're just going to run the music, and let's do this. The
best part of the week.
Saturday games. We got 2 of them here. The Steelers at the Ravens. Pittsburgh, a 3.5-point favorite. Baltimore, resting a lot of guys.
I don't care how many people Baltimore rests. The Baltimore has the better coaching. They've got the better players. Pittsburgh doesn't have an offense. I think the Ravens are going to exact revenge on a division rival here, keep them out of the playoffs.
Wow.
Because Jack's not here, I'll take the Steelers.
Take the Steelers for him. I like Tyler Huntley. I think he's a really good backup quarterback. Ravens went on a playoff run, or run to the playoffs without him. I'm going to go Baltimore, too. Can't believe I'm doing that, but I'm going to go Baltimore at home. I mean, how much would they love to keep Pittsburgh out?
But that's the thing is, even though it's backups playing, they are going to be motivated to win this game. The fans will be into it. That's a tough environment no matter what.
The Texans, 1.5-point favorites at the Colts. As we said earlier, this is a playoff game.
This line strikes me as fishy. And whenever I see a fishy line, I go the opposite way of my instincts. Give me the Indianapolis Colts. Colts forged.
Oh, okay. All right. Wow, Zach.
Give me the Stroud.
the Stroud.
He's always on Stroud.
Yeah, I have to take the Texans in this one. If I'm looking at a playoff game, I go a lot of times with the better quarterback here. I got the Texans. The Falcons at the Saints. The Saints are a 3-point favorite.
I don't want to pick this game. I hate both these teams. Give me the Saints, I guess. I don't know.
Yep, Saints.
I have the Saints too. Falcons, when they don't show up, they are horrible.
Until Arthur Smith is gone, that team is going to be absolutely
it's not like Dennis Allen is a second coming either. But I'm going to go with the Saints as well. The Browns at the Bengals. Joe Flacco's resting for this one. The Bengals are 7-point favorites.
This is another tough one to pick. I never know what to do in these backup games, but give me the Bengals this time.
Yeah, give me the Bengals.
In a game that doesn't matter here, I'm going to go with the Bengals, but I don't think they cover the 7. I think that's a little high. The Jaguars are 5.5-point favorites at the Titans. Big game. Jacksonville wins. They clinch the AFC South.
Jaguars are motivated to win. Jaguars are a much better team. I know we've seen ups and we've seen downs from the offense, but this Titans team is bad. Give me the Jaguars.
It's the Titans' fault that we're not going to be the number 1 seed, so give me the Jaguars.
I'm going to go with the Jaguars too. Yeah, Zach has simple reasoning for his selections.
I do.
I got the Jaguars too. The Bucks win and they get the NFC South. They're 4.5-point favorites at the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, as I said, I'm not picking the Panthers the rest of the season. Give me the Bucks.
Yep, give me the Mayfield.
Yeah, I'm rolling with Tampa Bay here too. A bounce-back win for them. The Jets at the Patriots. Patriots a 1.5-point favorite.
The Patriots are 1.5-point favorites at home versus the Jets.
Yeah, that's right.
The Jets don't win in Foxborough. Give me the Patriots.
What do you guys not playing?
I don't care.
Zach Wilson? He's not even playing, is it, right?
It's Simeon, right?
Yeah, I don't even think he's playing.
No, you don't understand. You could take the Liberty University football team and give Bill Belichick them at Foxborough, and I'm taking the Patriots.
Yeah, give me the Patriots.
I got New England as well. The Vikings are 3-point underdogs at the Lions. Is Detroit resting people? Did I miss something? Like there's
I'm pretty sure Detroit's resting some people.
Are they? Okay, because they can still get the 2 seed. I didn't look at they were resting. I just assumed they were playing. Because 3 points.
No, the Lions said they were resting Goff. Because I think the 2 seed is somewhat of an improbability.
Okay.
And the fact is, like, you'd rather have guys healthy or hosting playoff games either way.
So wait a second.
Know.
So if the Vikings win and the Bears beat the Packers, the Cardinals beat the Seahawks, and what's the last one? The Saints lose to the Falcons. Vikings are in. Doors open. You got the Vikings, Ziggy?
Actually, I take it back. I misread. Dan Campbell said he's not resting anybody.
Oh, dream's over. Okay.
Nick Mullins is a 3-point dog.
Something doesn't seem right there.
Yeah, I'm in the like I said, when I see a fishy line, I'm going the opposite way of my intuition. But I can't do it in this case because the Vikings don't win games. Give me the Lions.
Give me the Lions.
Yeah, I'm going to say this for everyone listening. I would heavily bet on Detroit -3 if I were not a Viking fan. Assuming I do your research and make sure everyone's playing. But I would be heavily invested on Detroit in this game. With that said, I am picking the Vikings because I'm a Vikings fan. Do with that what you may. The Bears at the Packers. Green Bay, a 3-point favorite. Win, and they're in.
Go, Pack, go. That's simple.
It's keeping this show alive, baby. Go, Packers, go.
Yeah, it is keeping us afloat, isn't it? I'm also picking the Packers. I'll make a deal with Packers fans. If they get to the divisional round of the playoffs, I will show up to this show wearing a Packers jersey. I'll be in Packers gear if they are to get to the divisional round. I can't just say for the playoffs because I've said for a while I expect them to get in, and they probably.
But if they win a wild card game, that means something.
If they go to the divisional round in year 1 of Jordan Love, I'm wearing Packer gear on the show, and then I'm going home and I'm probably crying a little bit.
No, if they go divisional round, I'm burning the I Love Love shirt.
The Cowboys are 13.5-point favorites at the Commanders.
Yeah, Cowboys. There's no question here. What do you mean?
Give me the Cowboys.
Zach likes.
I do like these underdogs.
He likes Sam Howell.
There's a reason
Wait, is
why.
Howell playing? Wait, is Howell
Sam
playing?
Howell is leading the league in sacks and interceptions.
Howell's playing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
It doesn't matter. I have the
but
Cowboys.
there's a reason also why my ratio is terrible.
Yeah, that's the Seahawks are 2.5-point favorites at the Cardinals. Road favorites.
I've been impressed with this Cardinals team
Me
the past
too.
few weeks. I know it looks like they should be coming in for a letdown, but this Seahawks team is bad. Give me Arizona and the K-Dog all day.
I went against my judgment last week.
You did. You almost took them.
And you know what? It bit me in the butt because I was right. I was always right. Give me the Cardinals.
I'm telling you. I think you're onto something here. This Cardinals team has come on lately, and Kyler Murray, I think he saved his job in Arizona with the way he's played over the past few weeks. He's been awesome. So I got Arizona winning this one, keeping the Vikings' playoff hopes alive. The Rams at the 49ers, San Francisco, 3.5-point favorites. But they're resting a bunch of people.
They're resting a bunch of people, but
So
the
are the
Rams
Rams.
are starting Carson Wentz.
Yes.
You're telling me Carson Wentz in the year 2023 is winning in Levi Field? No, give me the 49ers.
I don't know. Carson Wentz is probably better than Sam Darnold.
No, he's not.
No, I did it. Hold
This
on,
is
hold
a
on.
weird. It's hard to.
I was
it's impossible to
thinking-
predict a game like this.
Yeah, all right. I'll give the 49ers a go.
Yeah, I'll go with the 49ers too. But again, it's just hard to predict these games. Cooper Kupp's not playing. McCaffrey's out. We'll see what happens. The Eagles are 5.5-point favorites at the Giants.
Give me the Giants. I have zero faith in the Eagles, even in a
So you've
must-win
given up.
game.
You've given up on that.
Yeah, even in a must-win game, I think the Giants are going to get this done.
Eagles. I don't know what Ziggy's talking about.
Tyrod's been good when he's played for the Giants this year. Like he was solid again last week. They took the Rams to the wire. I got Philadelphia though. In a game they need to have just in case if Dallas slips up. I got Philly. Denver at the Raiders. Yeah, lone wolf. The Raiders are a 2.5-point favorite.
I never Jarrett Stidham revenge angle. I know it's there, but give me the Raiders.
Broncos or Raiders, Zach?
Stidham going against his old team.
Doesn't
me-
get better than that.
Give me the Stidham.
All right.
Versus
We
old
got a
team.
Bronco pick here. I'm going to go with the Raiders, too. And as Jack would say, Antonio Pierce till he dies. So I'll go Raiders. The Chiefs at the Chargers. Chargers are a 3.5-point favorite. Kansas City, resting people. They have nothing to play for.
Absolutely typical. The Chiefs have to bench Patrick Mahomes because he's too distracted by Taylor Swift. I can't pick this Chargers team. Again, coaches matter to me. The fact is, Andy Reid is going to put some thought into this game plan. That's better than whatever the Chargers are going to cook up. Give me the Chiefs.
Who is the Chiefs back? Is this still Chad Henne? Is he still on the team?
For Kansas City right now?
Kansas City, yeah.
No.
No,
It's not
because he
Chad
retired.
Henne. It's not Chad Henne. The
And
Chiefs.
I don't even know who the backup is.
They're starting. Oh, they're starting. Who are the Chiefs starting? I'm trying to figure this out.
Whoever
We
it is,
have
I'm not
no
gonna-
Oh, Blaine
idea.
Gabberts. They're starting Blaine Gabbert.
We have no idea who the
Yeah.
Chiefs are playing. All right, Blaine Gabbert versus Easton Stick.
Give me the
Yeah.
stick.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Chiefs
want
too.
the stick, don't you?
Yeah, you want the
Whoa,
stick. He wants the
whoa,
stick.
Whoa, easy. there,
I'm going with
boys.
Gabbert and the
Easy
Chiefs.
there.
The Chargers have been horrible. All right, and the Sunday night game. The Bills are 3-point favorites in Miami.
I'll tell you what's going to happen. The Bills will be forced to play for their playoff future. The stars are going to align. It's going to be the last regular season game of the year. It will be Bills winning, they're the 2 seed, losing, they're out. And then it is going to be fins up because the Miami Dolphins are going to finally show they belong and knock the Bills out of the playoffs. Give me the Dolphins.
Give me the Dolphins because why would I think about this?
It was a little thought there. There was a little thought. I've been on the Buffalo side this entire time, and they're probably the right pick, but, I'm rooting for the Dolphins for you, Zach. I think that they can win this game, So I'm going to pick Miami. I'm going to go fins up with you. And we'll hope that Tua doesn't have one of those rattled moments, sacks, turnovers. Not in Miami, right? Not Miami. Maybe we should go to this. This should be a fun game to go to. Fly out, Ziggy? How long is that flight? Like 7 hours?
Yeah, well, it's right on the way back to Virginia.
Yeah, it's just a little stop. Okay, so there you have the Week 18 game picks. And from here on out, it's all playoffs. It's a little easier to do the playoff shows. You like enjoying the music there? Yeah, it's good. It's good. I mean, great songs. Yeah, a little easier to do these shows when you can really focus in on one game at a time, and you can do reactions to each one, focus on individual teams, as opposed to when you have 32 teams playing each week. It's like, holy crap, what the hell am I looking at here sometimes? But it'll be a lot of fun once the playoffs get going, and there are, as we said, a lot of great storylines. Kind of funny how the teams that we attached ourselves to throughout the season, the Packers, the Texans, they've gone on these great runs to the playoffs. Like maybe it's not a curse.
I mean, this is what's fun about football, right? Is you get all these storylines at the beginning of the season. You can go back and watch our divisional preview shows to see things never go how you expect. Some things went how we expected, right? We all thought the Ravens were going to be pretty good. We all thought the Dolphins were going to be pretty good.
But I don't know. I don't know if you got. I think all three of you had Baltimore out of the playoffs.
Probably.
I had the Ravens in the playoffs.
I don't know.
We'll
have to go back and watch that.
I definitely did not.
I know you did. Well, you guys had the Browns high, the two of you. And but for completely different reasons from what wound up actually happening, which is pretty funny.
But I just mean, you never know what's going to happen in the NFL. So it's been fun to see how the season plays out. And it's fun that more teams than not in this last week have a chance of making the playoffs. There's a whole lot to play for.
Yeah, just think about where we are with the young quarterbacks, because that's sort of what we attached ourselves to this summer. You have Jordan Love and Stroud going on the playoff runs. And then with so many injuries this year, I mean, I just think off the top of your head, Richardson went down, Cousins went down, Burrow went down, there's Watson went down, Rodgers first, we were down here recording when he got hurt. A lot more guys, too, have been injured this season. To have Minshew go on a playoff run, unbelievable. The Joe Flacco angle, unbelievable. Stafford coming back from last season. It's crazy, just all the different stories this year of who's ascending in the NFL. Of course, you have the Eagles, 49ers. Chiefs are still there towards the top. But it's been just a great, great regular season, and should be in store for a great playoff run, too. And we'll see what happens. Man, if Kirk was healthy, I really think we would have won the North. Really,
we would have won the Super Bowl, Paul. We would have won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we would have won the Super Bowl, wouldn't we? So thanks again for everyone who's been listening throughout the regular season. We'll be back with the Week 18 reaction show, and then on to the playoffs. Here we go. Thanks for listening. See you next time.